In a world.
In a world where dynamics switch up, you got this beautiful texture to your voice. Flop, 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 flop.
Voiceover.
Trust me.
How this makes you feel?
Like it's Friday every day.
Feast your ears on the opportunity of a lifetime. Deb Monroe.
The animators have to paint a picture around what you're doing. You can have some secret thought in there on top.
Ellie Ray.
Be playful and sassy.
Get mic'd. The ultimate voice actor.
We're back. Nice to see you.
We're back. How was camping?
Camping was much needed. I worked a bit on the way there and a couple first days. We had a lot of crazy stuff going on after our workshop, right? It was so busy and oh my gosh, I had to.
That workshop was 5.5 hours of it.
It went overtime, didn't it? Oh, anyway.
Awesome. But the whole thing is about, getting yourself to the place where you feel at your happiest.
Some Zen time. Everybody has to have some Zen time. You're not good at that. You're no good at that. You need a camping trip or something.
I will continue. I'm going to continue to work on that. But speaking of getting yourself to the place of where you feel the best possible you, where you get to show and highlight your most authentic self, which is basically, when you get out of society. Right now, what's going on with Black Lives Matters, yay. But not only Black Lives Matter.
Good things about it. Woohoo.
The best. Get Mic'd is completely in support of Black Lives Matter. And
wait for all these voice actors to take a stand. Hey, they like, wow. I mean, it's just totally made a change. There's a change. It's
like, I feel like corporations and companies, like big ones, like The Simpsons, where Abu is being replaced. Frank Azaria has been doing Abu for how long? 30 years. I don't even know. But it's come to that time where it's like, a white guy shouldn't be playing that.
And back in the day, right, the reason a lot of that happened, I mean, again, it's 30 years old. So I think a lot of the reasons a lot of that happened, at least I remember casting back then, or just starting casting, I think maybe back then. I just remember I had a student who was East Indian, and they weren't allowed by their family's religion to come and perform. They weren't allowed, and they wanted to so bad. So I think there was also a lot of cultural things that weren't allowing them to be more exposed.
I can tell you 40 years ago, in this business, 30 years ago, there were no people of colors in the agencies that I can remember. I remember one Black woman and an Asian woman, but that was in Toronto.
Yeah. No kidding. And Toronto's very heavy with the Black culture, for those that don't know.
Known, and that was 30 years ago, where you go, they, literally, they weren't being celebrated, or even never mind First Nations people that came later, where you said, we have to recognize, what's happening. We've been slow to get to this point. I know that Missy in Big Mouth, one of my students, has been auditioning to replace Jenny Slate, and there's, it's great. I think what's happening is a white person should not be playing a Black role.
Yeah.
It's just,
not necessary anymore.
Black character, it's one thing if it's a Jamaican accented character, because everybody just assumes they're a person of color. Well, that's not necessarily the truth. So that's okay. But I don't think, anyway, at this particular moment in time, we have any space for saying, oh yeah, you can do this part. No, I'm not. I did Black Like Me hair products way back in the days. That was in late 80s. I had to say Black Like Me, and that seems absurd to me. It horrifies me on so many levels now, but I was a kid, right? Like I didn't know. I just, right? So we have to,
I played a very poor job of a Black character in Dragon Ball, and I was like, when it was presented to me, I was newer when I did Dragon Ball, so for me, I was like, oh, I don't know, so I'm just like, what do I just talk more? Like, I didn't know what I was doing at all. I'm
I had
sure
to
they
do it. I
replaced
got,
me.
I had to do it in several shows, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
And it gets breakfast at Tiffany times. It gets wrong. It was
Well,
wrong.
and you probably did it justice in the sense of you probably researched it and did all the things that I would do now. It's just then I was so new, I didn't know what that. So again, I hope they replace me. But you know what's interesting is it's opened a bit of Pandora's box in our industry. And that's what I'm so fascinated by is not only is it affecting the world, it's just affecting the world globally. And again, we are just nothing but supportive to movements and change. And uh, I think it's all about judgment versus racism. I think people shouldn't judge, period. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, it's just terrible that people do that, period. But I want to read to you a spec that we got from this audition that is
Right,
opening,
right.
I think, some other conversations that are very interesting to talk about. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
okay, so this is what it said. It said, it actually had a clarification, said diversity note, which is, I find, a little newer to information that I've seen. You'll note that the roles listed below are fairly specific when it comes to character, ethnicity, sexuality, gender identity, etc. While there is some room to make changes, it would not be to erase a marginalized group. Please do submit if you think your identity is compatible. We would consider other ethnicities, casting another queer person as a pan character, etc. We won't cast a white person in a role originally written as non-white, a cis actor to play trans, a straight actor to play a queer character. Don't go in thinking you're the one who will convince us otherwise. This is also the reason we ask these sort of things about you in the audition questions, only to make sure we're casting marginalized actors for marginalized roles. And I'm thinking, as I read this, and by the way, I have to tell you, this is actually a cleaned up version because there was a different version sent and it was brought to my attention by one of my students who is asexual. They don't have an identity. They don't identify either way. And it was very clear that she, who she prefers to be referred to,
Her
has,
pronoun is she, yeah.
yeah, thank you. There was no place for her to audition. She wasn't allowed to. And so she wrote it to me and said, is this wrong? Is this discriminate? Is this, I feel very offended by this. And I was like, wow, let me research. And so I sent it to the company and then they contacted a lawyer and the lawyer indeed said the way it was worded was absolutely illegal. So now it's changing.
Well, remember, I think I mentioned to you, I said, I think that's illegal. I don't think, because remember, we talked about this
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. So it's so incredible what this
Well,
new
that's discriminating. That's discriminating. So, we go through the whole
discrimination
thing.
on discrimination.
Well, right. So there's like, how do you recognize
Where do you stop?
what pronoun? And I recognize I've got they, because I do recognize as they. I don't go, I'm this. Are you talking about medically, physically? Well, somebody who's trans has ever had it all changed and they could go medically, physically. I've got all the parts that are supposed to be this, but you could say I wasn't born this. So it gets into that deep territory
So
where I
deep,
go,
right?
I'm really a gay man. I'm a drag queen. Like, I am a drag queen. And people laugh at me and I go, no, I'm not kidding. Like, I'm
Well, they
not.
probably think you're real. Oh, she really must be. Oh, it must be a he.
Well, it's like if I recognize as they,
Yeah.
somebody else can't say you're not they.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Well,
true.
that's when you go, well, no, I recognize as twin spirit. There's titles for everything.
Of course.
If you want to be called she, and I don't think you're a she, I still respect you and call you she. I don't go,
It's your entitlement to whatever you want.
well, I want to treat you the way you see
Exactly.
yourself and believe in
And
your.
what's the big deal? And I'm sure you agree with me on this one. I'm sure you have even more students than I've had in this experience. But I have students that are male that I would not cast as a male at all. They just don't have the vocal for it. They actually cast better as a female, and so I would push them in that direction more
Have
because
met
they just
me.
don't suit it, right?
I
Yeah,
cast as male. I
yeah.
do, because
And
I recognize so many parts of me, monsters and men and boys, and I recognize as male. It's not that I don't play female characters, but we play our ear allows this instrument, which is neither male nor female. It's just a larynx with a voice with vocal folds inside of cartilage and muscle, right? Let's be honest. That is not, and my inspired emotional response is neither male nor female as the artist.
Yeah.
So we do run we run into difficult territory.
Territory.
Well,
What,
what I
what
understand,
if they say now, if you're Irish, you can only audition then for Irish. What I'm scared of, I'll tell you what I'm just scared of. What I'm scared of is, please don't tell me I can't voice American. That's all I'm asking. Because if I'm not allowed to voice American, I'm only allowed to voice Canadian. Oh my God, no.
well, that's like saying, English is only British.
Right.
It's like
And
where
there's
you
no
go,
real authentic accent in anything anyway.
well,
It's
and I don't think it'll get that bad, hopefully, because I think that Irish, Scottish, Hungarian, Russian, they're all in English. They can all speak in English and they
yeah.
have an accent. And if
And
you understand white, black, brown, gay, lesbian, it doesn't matter.
yeah,
The voice themselves, I don't think that should change
I don't think so
anything,
either.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it should. But
So weird to support.
if they request a brown or black or red or yellow character, I believe, and I truly believe, and it was always kind of known that it was inappropriate to be doing those. Like we
Of
knew
course. Yeah.
inappropriate. We actually went. That's kind of weird. It's
Yeah.
weird. Um, I feel weird doing
Especially
it.
when a lot of it became the stereotype of it versus necessarily the authenticity of the
Well,
culture,
you're
right?
choosing a send up because it's you impersonating in a weird
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do for a living. So that's the fine line for us all. Because no matter what we're taking on, that's what we do. We
Well, it gets
impersonate.
really weird when you're playing an old black man
Mm-hmm.
in a book. When I was younger, I was none of those things. I wasn't black, I wasn't a man, and I wasn't old.
Can relate to
And
any of
yet,
this.
and
No.
yet I did it.
Yeah.
And you go, well, you should have gotten an old black man to do the part, right?
Yeah. Why
But
didn't
that's again back in the 80s, 90s, like late 80s, 90s, there wasn't like I'm telling you, people were marginalized and they just weren't part of the story.
no?
Now they are.
Yeah.
And so we have to go here. It's your time.
Yeah.
It is your
We
time.
support it.
And you
Absolutely.
need to take over and take control of things. It has to change.
And
It has to
it's like that whole thing of, okay, now we want to rally and go, okay, come on, here you go. We got work. Because we would love those opportunities when they're big casted roles that are looking to replace or just fill in a role. It's like, this is a great opportunity, guys. So get your act together so that
Oh,
you can
I
find,
know.
get it,
I mean,
attach
it was
yourself
up
to the
until
story.
I know somebody like a year and a half ago who got cast, not even in two people
Yeah.
of color, and they're not of
Yeah.
color.
And this goes for
So
every ethnicity. So guys, if you have an ethnicity, take advantage of this moment to really shine in your
I tell all
culture.
my students, I said, "You're the new black." Like that's how you sell yourself, man. Like
And I used to
you.
always say too in a class. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ellie, babe. I used to say in a class all the time, like, I would rather hear, like, I had a Filipino actress in there one time, and I was telling her to mimic, because she was doing like a stoner voice, and she had to go to an older voice after that. And her stoner voice was really cool, but when she went to her older voice, just wasn't connecting quite there. And I says, "Can you mimic maybe your mom or your elder, right?" And she just went into this wicked Filipino accent, and it was like, okay,
Right.
you're the one who should be doing that, not us, because you actually live the life, you know, the experiences. No different than it's more difficult for us to get into a young boy role. For a lot of us women, we do young boy roles because the men's voices aren't there. That's why the men aren't being used.
Except
It's
with
because
me.
their voices aren't there, they're not as high pitched. And so it's no different than trying to fill those shoes. It's like, well, we don't really have that experience. So we're drawing from a stereotype or whatever, wherever we're drawing it from.
That's when you go, well, the rules don't really apply to anything, do they? Where you go, well, Ellie, I want you to be a lawyer. And I go, well, maybe the lawyer's an alcoholic. Maybe the lawyer's unhinged. Maybe the lawyer cries all the time. Maybe the lawyer, you go, what does a lawyer mean? A lawyer's just a person who has variety of different elements going on in themselves, right?
Yeah.
So that for me goes into the thing of like, what is anything. What does a dog sound like? What does a policewoman sound like? What does a cashier sound like? What is it? They're
Oh,
whatever you choose them to sound
oh,
like,
that's our
because
world. Our whole world is stereotype and make believe. That's our entire career.
nosy neighbor. They're all going to do that kind of stereotypical what ever, right?
Yep. It's crazy.
Well,
Well, anyone who is in the advantage point here to take advantage of this beautiful movement, get in there and take advantage, get
right
some
now
training and
more
get
than
yourself
ever,
ready.
like while we're open enough and smart enough, like we've actually taken the blinders off, and gone, come on, oh, come
Here.
on, we have
Yep.
to open our doors and be smarter and change the way we've been serving our our world. We've been
Yep.
serving our world from a one-dimensional place, and that, thank goodness, the times they be a change in, and this is opportunity for everyone to celebrate Black Lives Matter, literally
Black
on
lives
so many levels.
Get out there. Go get mic'd.
Yeah.
Get mic'd, the ultimate voice actor.
Huh? Was that you? Is it over?